Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. On this channel I do a lot of study tips, advice, basically me trying to help out people that are in the same position that I was a year ago, and some sixth form bits as well. But in today's video I'm going to be talking through my GCSE art coursework. You can kind of see like one board here because it's really long. First of all, disclaimer, this is not me bragging, but I know that me, like a couple of years ago, well, since I started my art GCSE journey through a lot of stress, I was watching a lot of videos on A-star or even A-grade boards or pieces of artwork that I could maybe look at and see how I could do the same thing in my works, you know, what they did to get those grades. But I was on a different specification to them, and obviously anyone that's coming before, like after me, is on the grade 9 to 1 spec. So this is for grade 9 to 1. I ended up getting a grade 9 in art, and I was over the moon, honestly. Like I was predicted 7s and 8s all the way up until my GCSE exam, and then on results day I got a 9. I really hope you enjoy this video. I hope it's useful. And yeah, bigger angle because I've actually worked on boards for GCSE, so I know a lot of people worked in sketchbooks, but for me I worked on boards. So I'm going to go through my coursework and my exam. My coursework was built up of year 10 and beginning of year 11 work, and then exam was year 11 up until my exam piece. The only thing I don't have is that exam piece because it's actually up on the school wall somewhere framed. So we'll start with the year 10 coursework and then we'll work our way up. Although we had like little sub-units, the main, like the what do you call it, the umbrella that this all sat under was the theme of colour. Very vague, very broad, because I did both still life and trees, and then portraiture, and I focused more on like wrap, human figure. We'll go into that later. So this is, and I'll put this down for a second, this is I think my largest board, or one of them. It is pretty much two stuck together, but this is my Contextual Studies page, so I can just about fit it all in frame, but my head can't fit in there either. So I'm just gonna like walk through each piece. Forewarning, this is going to be a long video, but I want to show you in depth on what I did. So my first unit of year 10 was trees, as you can see there. So that is a artist page of Rob Wass. We stopped doing these A3 artist pages halfway through year 10, and we focused on just like artist copies. So there's my artist page. So this is a copy of his work, colour pencil and ink pen. This is like half of this is a photo, and then this is my drawing of that photo, like I carried it on. And then this is made with watercolour. This is a close-up of this piece here, and then I just put a quote of his work there. And then on this part of the board that you can also see, I've got my title that says Contextual Studies. I'm sorry if I keep looking down there. I've got like my laptop screen which shows the image much bigger, so I'm looking at where I'm going. And then here's my annotations, just a quick paragraph. So talking about annotations, on each board I've got writing, and they basically explain what I was doing on each board, where I was trying to go with the unit. Annotations really help to show your examiner exactly where you're going with a project. Right, switching sides now to look at this part. I'll start with the top half because again I can't fit the whole thing in. Right, this is the second half of the board. So these are all, Contextual Studies means copies of artists' work. So this is all artists that I've studied. I will study more later on, as you'll see. But you can see here, this is all part of my food project. So I've done trees and food. That was my year 10, my 2 year 10 projects. But they're both looking at colour a lot. These two and this one, I can't actually remember the name. I think it's, oh, Robert Joyner. I'll link all the artists down below. Because the ones that I've studied obviously have a bit of information for me to talk about. And I did have my artist essays as well. My teacher has them. So imagine I've got essays along with the Contextual Studies boards, where I talk about the artist's work and what I want to take from them. So this one's done in acrylic. This is I think it's Coca-Cola bottle. This one's watercolour, Starbucks cup. And this one is oil pastels and McDonald's fries, obviously. Next artist I've studied is Andy Warhol. He's quite an iconic artist, and he is very, very different. But I found that they both studied, yeah, you can see, Coca-Cola bottles. So I did the same size and actually in the same media. So this is acrylic paint. This is another copy of his work, acrylic paint, and then those two are pen, outline after watercolour. I did watercolour all over. So yeah, all of this board was artist copies, studying their methods, trying to figure out how best I could display them. Right, this is going on the floor now because I have a whole pile. I think I've got like 12 boards. As I said, it's going to be a long video. Board number 2, a lot smaller, a lot easier to handle. So, as the title said, Observational Studies. So this is my own photos. So again, like I had my essays to go along with the board that I've previously talked about, I had contact sheets to go along with this one. So again, you can see the trees and the food. They don't look like they're linked together, but that was because they were separate units that we then merged together as colour. So obviously colour isn't as prevalent in this, but this is me looking at my photos, trying to replicate them as best as I could. So top left, watercolour, silhouette of a tree. That there, the tiny little one, is acrylic. This is coloured pencil, ballpoint pen, ink pen, coloured pencil, ink pen, and acrylic paint. This one took me ages. I just procrastinated, left it, but I'm really, really proud of it actually. And I've got 2 different pieces of annotations, one for like contrasts, and then one for talking about how I'm taking some of my artist influence. So say for Rob Wass, which I've talked, you know, the A3 artist page, this kind of links to his work because it's like a silhouette, that kind of stuff. So Observational Studies from Unit 1. Development page. So this is where you explore different medias, different techniques, and start to bring in some of your artist influences, as you can see up here. Again, the whole board doesn't fit in the frame. This is why a lot of schools did sketchbooks. I realised this. I took this home on parents' evening so I could like use the back seat of the car, and I didn't have to take this on the bus, thank God. But if I had a sketchbook, this would be so much easier. So thank God I'm working in one now in A-level. Going from this piece, so this is a Robert Joyner artist pastiche, so my own photo in his style, and then did the same photo in Andy Warhol style. Like I copied both of their works in the same kind of photo. They both did Coca-Cola bottles. I decided to do the same thing but with Marmite jars instead. This is a Rob Wass pastiche. This is kind of like a rushed piece, but it shows colour. It worked. This is a semi-experiment / pastiche. This is like kind of taking a lot from Andy Warhol, again using my own photo. This is more experimental. So I got just a normal cartridge paper page and used my own photo of a Kit Kat, but I put red watercolour all over that page, then cut it up and then stuck it down on another one. That is acrylic paint over the top of that. I just really like the feel of that. I think it kind of gives the same kind of effect as my artist thing, my Robert Joyner. So one tip is, if you're doing experiments, make sure they link to your artist. So that clearly linked to my artist in the fact that it had the same sort of texture. And then here I did the same Kit Kat picture but in ink pen, and I did pointillism. This is a bit more out there, but obviously it tied from that and I was a bit able to develop it further, just looking at different ways I could show different photos, I suppose. So this is the final board. So each of those boards, so I forgot to mention that at the beginning, each of these boards is representative of one AO. So board 1 was AO1, so artist techniques. Board 2 is AO3, I know, a bit confusing, but it's observational studies basically. Board 3 is AO2, they kind of swap around, that is experimenting and developing. And then board 4 is final piece ideas. So this is my first board 4, and you can see how I've taken the Kit Kats obviously. So this is a kind of like a plan for what I would do for my final piece. These 2 are acrylic and they're in pop art, Andy Warhol style. This is colour pencil and realism. And then here are different, so these 3 are like different composition ideas, there's the word. So here is Kit Kat. I know it's fairly faint, I wasn't actually a fan of this, but it's developing from the tree one that I showed you earlier, the ink tree one. This is an ink drawing of the Kit Kat that I then used water to, you know, smudge it, add some shading. Then this one I really like. It's basically the same sort of ink technique up here, but they're Marmite jars. I've drawn 3 Marmite jars, the repetition from Andy Warhol that I then took onto here, and then I took the Kit Kat from these 2. So you can see how it all links. Maybe some of the artists aren't shown as much as others, so Andy Warhol is clearly there. Robert Joyner was kind of there in the, what do you call it, technique, there we go. I'm really not very good with words today. We didn't actually end up doing a proper final piece for that. We moved straight on to our unit, just due to time, but that probably counts as it. Okay, so what you've just seen there is all of my work from year 10 that got put into my art coursework. And I think overall, when I was talking to my teacher, my coursework got a 9. I've got another 4 boards for coursework, and then my exam got an 8. And I think that's mainly down to my exam final piece. Really don't like it, but my coursework made up for it, and I got a 9 overall. So moving swiftly on to the second set of boards. I've got 3 different sets. This is the second set, and why have I put it in the wrong order? This is the beginning of year 11, and I have to say, I did not stop working over the summer holidays between year 10 and 11, and my skills massively improved. So I switched from, obviously there were no faces in those 4 boards. I then went on to portraiture. So the theme for this unit, these next set of 4 boards, was wrap. This is board 1. This is one of my favourite boards of all of them. I'm not going to lie, I'm really happy with it. I definitely have a strong point for copying other artists' work. I like looking at the way that artists use their technique and applying it in my own. And this is exactly what I did here. So I've got 2 artists on this board, and then obviously my annotations in the middle. Again, artist essays came separately. So when you get toys, the batteries come separately. Artist essays are separate. My teacher has all of those. They're being used as examples. But starting over here, this is a artist called Gillian Lambert. Got a ring light, and obviously this is pencil, so it's kind of shining. There we go. I have to tilt it down, but you can kind of make it out. Right, so this bit here is an A4 pencil drawing. So this one here is a biro pen drawing, and this one here is a graphite pencil drawing. So again, this might be like a bit shiny due to the ring light. Sorry about that. We need good lighting though. So these 3 are Gillian Lambert, and it might not look like wrap straight away, but in this piece of annotation, I was talking about how I wanted to look at the way things wrap around people's faces and conceal identity. So this is all, like, this is distortion, this is concealment, this is also concealment, and I'll look a bit more in distortion later on. I mean, you can see my boards poking out there. And then this one here is called Sandra Chevrolet. So a bit different. All of these are modern artists so far, and I would recommend having some more traditional ones, because they do, I know obviously the examiners aren't meant to be biased, but if they are more common, or if they're more familiar with traditional artists, they might be able to connect with your work a bit more. I did do pretty much all modern artists, but it's something I would really recommend. Traditional artists are great. They've also got a lot of information about them. Down here, I just have a few photos, some of my favourite photos from my contact sheet. This is what I started doing. The 4 boards I showed you previously, they came with separate contact sheets, but the next ones have contact sheets basically interwoven throughout. I basically show the photos that I maybe took an example from. So for example, this one, I actually do a copy of it later on, but it's him distorting his face. This is my little brother. He's in a lot of my works now. You'll get to see his face quite a lot, which links to this artist here. Sandra Chevrolet likes to basically do portraiture and then use comic book strips to cover people's faces. So this is an acrylic copy of hers. This is watercolour like hair and face, and then colour pencil for the comic book part of it. My arm is really hurting. And then this down here is another acrylic one. I actually didn't do too much for this artist. You know, for my Andy Warhol I did a lot more in terms of artist copies. They just didn't get put in. For this one I focused on the detail. So as you can see in this board, it is very detailed, which meant I didn't have to do, you know, tons and tons of work. Obviously these are very detail heavy artists. If your artist isn't as detail heavy, maybe do some more looking at different areas, or close up, or do a close up of their work. I think that might really help. I'm sorry if you like the board's just making a racket. Right, board number 2 is a bit of like a love-hate one. So I apologise to my brother because his face is going to be in a lot of this video. So this is another huge board. You'll notice at first that this one stands out because this is another Gillian Lambert copy. Our teachers liked us to put a copy of an artist study on our observational board because it kind of shows how they link throughout. Just gives it a better flow, I suppose, because my board 2, 3, 4 all link, and then board 1, because you're studying your artist and not your own photos, it can kind of stick out a bit. Starting with this one, it's not my favourite. One thing I really hate is his hair in this one. It kind of looks like a coconut, but the purpose of this was to show that, like, the deformity. So he's like this, kind of like my Gillian Lambert artist. Just wanted to show that so that that's continuous. This piece, however, is one of my favourites. This is a graphite pencil drawing, and if you follow me on Instagram, you'll know that this is my favourite media. Basically, this is a copy of one of my photos. All of these are my own photos, except from that one, obviously. And here I was looking at him concealing his face. So I really like the shadows of this one and the definition on his hands. And his hair is a lot better in this one. This one is my other favourite. So when I say it's a love-hate board, I really like these two and that artist copy. I'm really a good fan of that as well. But I don't like this one or that one as much. This one is my least favourite, probably, of all of my unit. My teacher made me put it on the board. Almost cried putting it on there. But it still showed concealment. That was the whole point. And it was me exploring a new media. This is, well, not a new media, but a different media to normal. So this is coloured pencil, those two are graphite, and that's coloured pencil. However, this is acrylic. So as you can see, I struggled to A, get proportions right, his eyes are a bit dodgy, and B, get colours right. So his face is really pink, the hand is really yellow. And I also struggled to get the right texture. Because acrylic dries so quickly, I couldn't get much of a smooth look, I suppose. So the hand is quite wobbly, I'd say. That's the best way to put it. It's like quite just rough in terms of texture. It doesn't really doesn't suit the photo. This is where I started to bring in material. So this goes on from Gillian Lambert, so the pencil, the artist that used a load of pencil drawings. She obviously used material with the foil, but a lot of her other pieces also used material, and one of them was actually a lady covering part of her face with like a t-shirt or something similar to that, a scarf. So he's wearing the blue t-shirt here, and then by utter coincidence we then did another photo shoot and he was holding this t-shirt up in front of his face. So it just worked out. I used a lot of blue. My blue pencil at the end of this project was so small. Board number 3 is experiments again. Another big one. I think you can see a theme going through this. They're very big boards. Development page, I actually had barely enough room to write my title here. So this is experiments again. So a lot more experimental than my past development page. That was a lot more pastiches. This is my pastiche piece. So on one half I've got graphite pencil in style of Gillian Lambert, and on the other half I've got the style of Sandra Chevrolet. So this is acrylic, superhero themed comic books, and then this part is watercolour, and then the bottom of his face is also watercolour, just because that was what I thought best represented their style. Down here is my link between the food unit and my more portraiture unit. So instead of comic book strips, I decided to do food wrappers because they were so brightly coloured, and you can see it quite fits in. So this is ink pen, just a quick sketch, and the actual photo is the same as this one here. What he's doing is he's holding the material up to his face, so the material is like bunching around his hands. You can't see on his face, just his hair. So I thought that was really cool because A, it brings in the hands from Gillian Lambert, but also the comic book type look from Sandra Chevrolet, and also the concealment from Gillian Lambert as well. So basically it really fitted in with my unit. This one is on newspaper. It is like, I think 4 different colours of pen. So I represented his face in red and the material in blue. Again, just looking at different ways I could use colour. This one, sketchy pen drawing, and then ink to show the folds of the fabric. Same photo, different development. This one is another pastiche style thing. So one of my favourite photos, he's holding the material around his face and you can see like the nose and the eyes. Looks a bit creepy, but really, really nice. And then what looks like tattoos is comic book. So that's in graphite pencil. I don't know whether you can see. Kind of more looking at my artist style again. So I mixed the pencil from Gillian Lambert with the comic book theme from Sandra Chevrolet. This one is ink pen and bit of ink. This is kind of tying into my compositions, which you'll see later on. And then this one is oil pastel for the material. I almost dropped my board then. Oil pastel for the material and graphite pencil for the, what do you call it, t-shirt and hands. It's very smudged now. Okay, and the final board for that unit of wrap is this final ideas page. It's a little diddy board again, thank God. So these are different composition ideas for my final piece, which I actually have here and I'll show you in a minute. These last 4 boards were what got me my 9, I'm pretty sure. Don't want to like say that for certain, but in my opinion, they're my best 4 boards. And this is kind of the accumulation of those 3. So I'm putting together some of the things that I thought I'd explored the most. So this is a sketch of what my actual final piece will look like, and this is like a close-up of one of the things. So the middle piece, his eyes are being covered with the fabric. Just did the fabric in graphite pencil. So that's red. That's red. Yes, of course it's red, Ella. That's red watercolor, and that kind of comes from the red and blue aspect from the comics that I'd looked at previously. So you know, like the newspaper experiment with the red and blue pen. That's where those colours came from. And you can see that this one and this one are very similar to one of the little pieces on my development page. That's kind of that tying in with these two. This is a very detailed drawing of the middle piece. So those two are rather sketchy. Left out some pieces blank, just line drawings. That's watercolour again in the background and then graphite pencil. You can see I like my pencil drawing. This is all pencil, and this is basically exactly what that would look like, just in black and white form. So I've got the comic book strip there and then the piece of fabric running along the top. Down the side I've got more close-ups of what this is. So these are in pencil again, really, really sketchy, but what I was looking at was how I would join together these pieces of fabric. These are 3 separate photos that I had basically merged together, and then these 2 were how I was going to merge those 3 photos together, because the people were fine, but I wanted to make the fabric one continuous thing. So I actually did these before I did those bits here. And then the middle part, colour pencil for the blue, black ink pen for the sketching, just because it was nice and bold and put the point across really. Okay, so those were the 4 boards for that unit. I'm just going to quickly show you the final piece for that. So here it is. It's on an A3 piece of paper. It's just slightly thinner in a sense. Background in red watercolour, and basically there's 3 different medias on there, so you can probably see the reflective bits. Oh my god, it's shining from the ring light. So background in watercolour, I decided to do a fading of the red, the coloured pencil for the blue, and graphite pencil for the basically Louis. So you've got the shoulders here. The middle person, or the middle Louis, is in comic book style. So his hair is comic book and his t-shirt is comic book. This part is normal face. Secretly, that was because I didn't want to do hair 3 times, but I also wanted to tie in my artist's work. So yeah. So I've got the colours from Gillian Lambert. No, I've got the colours from Sandra Chevrolet and the comic book from Sandra Chevrolet, and the pencil, like the graphite pencil from Gillian Lambert. Those 8/9 boards, including my final piece, that was my coursework. So that might seem like a lot, but that is all of year 10 and half of year 11 and my summer holiday between year 10 and 11, which I did quite a lot of work in. I also think because it's set out on boards, it's not as like concise as a sketchbook. So flicking through a sketchbook, you don't realise how much work you've done compared to when you lay it out all on loads of boards. It takes up a lot of room. Okay, lastly, we're almost there. We're on to my exam. Got to mention, I'm doing AQA art. So my coursework was worth 60%, my exam is worth 40%, and that is why my coursework got 9, my exam got an 8, pretty sure, not completely certain. So my coursework, and it was obviously a high 8, because they are still a lot of, like 40% is still a big chunk, but the 60% with a 9 carried me through to a 9 overall. Board number 1, we're doing more portraiture, and this is under the compass of human figure, where I wanted to look at movement from this artist. So this one is Simon Birch. So these are all artist copies again. So acrylic paint, acrylic and acrylic. You can see a theme there, just because it was really textured, and I really wanted to just get the right bold colours. This artist is called Mark Dempster. So this is watercolour, graphite pencil and ink pen with watercolour, just adding some shading in there. And then I've got, again, some of my contact sheet photos that I thought best suited those artist copies. Again, artist copies not included. Artist copies, artist essays not included. This is one of my favourite boards again, Observational Studies. Now this is where you finally get to see what Louis actually looks like. Here he is. So this is my Observational Studies board, and up here we've got an artist copy of Mark Dempster in watercolour, and the rest of them are observations. So you can clearly see I've got that composition from this kind of photo. They're both looking over to the side, face down, fairly not sad but relaxed, kind of sleepy look to them. Kind of links onto that one. So this one is watercolour base. He looks very, very tan compared to that one. I struggled with watercolour to try and get the right tone. I like his eyebrows. They're one thing. And then for the details, I went over with coloured pencil, just to make it a bit sharper. So the eyes, the eyebrows, some of his hairs, just to make it a little bit more realistic. And up here, we've got a graphite pencil study. This one, why am I pointing at nothing? This is graphite pencil. This is coloured pencil, just coloured pencil. And then this one is another graphite pencil. So you can see a theme throughout my whole unit. I like my pencil work. Really, really happy with this one in particular. The only thing is, and I'm going to point it out, and now you're not going to be able to see it without it, his eyes are wonky. And if you look, like, I'm going to try and put it level, this eye on this side is a lot lower than the other side. But if I'm honest, that's how the photo was, but they're not in real life. Like, his eyes aren't wonky in real life. That's just how I don't know, yeah. Because I draw all of my stuff with grids a lot of the time. So I zoomed in on my phone. I had the grid on my phone, zoomed in, so the grid block was the same size as the block in real life. And I was copying it out, and I still couldn't get it level. So I thought I'd leave it, because when I raised it up, it didn't look right either. Development page, so this is the other experiments. Artist Pastiche, so one of my own photos, I think it's, yeah, this one down here. He's basically reaching towards the hand as if you were going to shake a hand, but the hand's blurred. And I thought it worked really well with this Mark Dempster style. So this is an acrylic. These two are in ink pen. Just really small, really quick sketches. One's turning around, one's facing us, obviously. This is pencil up here. This is 3 mediums, I think. Yeah, pencil up here for his face and his hair. I think that's watercolour. Oh, watercolour pencils here. So this was a brand new media for me. And then oil pastel for the hands, because they were blurred again. So here he's reaching both hands towards the camera. That's kind of like the Mark Dempster thingy again. This one here is ink pen and biro pen, and I'm not a huge fan of it. His face is a bit weird here, but it's quite cool. And this one I quite like. It looks a bit weird on camera. His eye isn't that big on like in real life. Why does it look like that on camera? I don't know. But yeah, that is ink pen over the top of some tissue paper laid down. My teacher was really like. She was like, how on earth did you get it that flat? With a great deal of difficulty. And the whole point of this piece, and I've explained it in my annotations, was to kind of show his movement. His face is to the side as if he's like moving his head that way. So the tissue paper kind of, it's like a trail of movement behind him in a sense. And I used loads of different colours just because I thought it looked quite cool. This is leading on to my final piece page. So I'm looking at different ways that I can basically bring this whole project together. I end up using these photos, just not in this sense, and you'll see this later. So this is colour pencil in the middle, and then really, really quick ink pen sketches around the outside just to show the outline. We're on to the last board. This is the last one. Wait! I've been filming for 45 minutes now. This is probably going to be a long, long video. So this is final piece board. It's alright. Like, for me, it's not, I think the composition just isn't right. I'm not a huge fan of this piece. It looks worse on camera, to be honest, just because it looks really, really pale. There is more definition in real life. There's a couple of different ways, like potential compositions here. So this one down here is like a series, so him turning around. These are all in pencil, graphite pencil. These two are in, wait no, this is in ink pen, this is in biro pen. This one is kind of like the, what is it, on board 2, my observational board. I basically flipped that image so that these two could potentially be different versions of the side photos of Louis in this one. This is another, like, going on from my pastiche, not my pastiche, one of my experiments, and I actually used the tissue paper in my final piece. So this is graphite pencil, and then tissue paper in the background this time, not over him. Moving over to this side, this is a plan for my final piece. Basically, I know I don't have it with me, but imagine that. So that's coloured pencil, this is graphite pencil, this would also be graphite pencil, and then with these colours in the background with tissue paper. That was my final piece. Down here, it's just a close-up. It looks a bit creepy actually, because you'll see zooming in on his eyes. Close-up of this piece in coloured pencil as well. Really, really like this one actually. Not a fan of that. There's way too much black around the outside here. And his face is just a bit pale, because at this point I was really hesitant with colour. The pencil down on paper. Like, I'd done it with material, but with faces, I just couldn't do it. That's why I really, really like graphite pencil when it comes to portraiture. Long video. If you've stayed till the end, then thank you very much. I hope that's been useful, kind of me walking through my project. It kind of shows what, especially if we're on AQA, what they're looking for in terms of a grade 9. Now, the grade boundaries might go up this year. Obviously, I was the first year going through. But you can get the gist of what they want. They want linked boards throughout, or, you know, a sketchbook that links throughout. They want you to explore a range of different mediums, and the annotations really help when explaining what you're trying to accomplish within that unit. If you want more advice, then I've just made a video on like advice to GCSE 91 art students, so please go check that out if you think that's going to be useful. Otherwise, thank you for watching this video. Give it a thumbs up. Comment down below what was your favourite board. I think I've chosen my few. Again, this is not me, you know, bragging about my work. I am proud of what I've accomplished and what I got. I got a grade 9. I'm really, really proud of that. But I want to be able to show others how to get there. I've pointed out some works that I really, really don't like. But I've still put them in there, mainly because my teacher forced me to. But the point is, you don't throw away any work. Keep it. And you'll use it later on. I didn't think I'd be using any of my year 10 work, and here I am. I've got 4 boards on it. So it really, really helped me. The sheer workload that I had obviously boosted my grade overall. The more work you have, the more variety of mediums you can use, and still have a continuous project throughout, but still focus on your quantity, because that is the most important, your quality, because that is the most important thing. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!